Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 186 of the Fraternity Foodie podcast. I'm your host, Mike Ilon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and now a two-time author. Our second book, From Letters to Leaders, Redefining New Member Education and Leveraging Belonging to Eliminate Hazing, is available now. So go and buy that book today on Amazon. It's getting great reviews. It's only been out for a week, but everybody's loving it, and campuses are buying it up for all of their chapter leaders. So go check that out. Now, we call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring fraternity and sorority leaders together. Fun fact, today we're going to be talking about various beer, wine, and spirits companies in the United States. And I have to tell you, I happen to be a squire at Jack Daniel's. The Tennessee Squire Association began in February of 1956, and it was based on an idea for the distillery's first national sales manager. His name was Winton Smith. Following World War II, the demand for Jack Daniel's whiskey was higher than production could keep up. And Winton Smith was looking for a way to keep his customers around the country happy while supplies for Jack Daniel's were low. So he decided that the loyal fans who had written the distillery saying that they could not get any Jack Daniel's whiskey would instead receive a plot of land, which was a square inch of unrecorded property on the distillery's grounds. Now, this would make them part of owners or squires, and the first members were inducted into the Tennessee Squire Association. Now, today there is an application process if you look that up online, and you have to know another squire in order to get access to the Tennessee Squire Association. Now, I hope I don't get a flood of email requests to be squires after this episode airs, because I can't answer them all. I'm being straight with you. Our next guest is Greg Pestinger. After a career spent driving the success of major global brands, Greg has redirected his focus to help family businesses and high-performing individuals achieve their goals faster than they could on their own. His own experience growing up in his family business, now entering the third generation of ownership, has included all the joy and challenges that came with it. He understands that in a family business, that work is seldom left at the office and often leads to hurt, frustration, and strain on the family itself. Greg also understands the sacrifices made, the pride and emotional connection of the founder that is often in contrast to the uncertain future felt by rising generations that are waiting in the wings. So this personal experience, along with 30 years of working for some of America's largest and most respected family-controlled companies, gives him a unique history that blends family passion with the power and resources of a Fortune 500 company. So Greg offers actionable techniques for building revenue, market share, and profitability. He is tenacious about showing his clients how to secure new business, develop and launch new products, build customer loyalty, and forge strong relationships with business partners. Among his clients and peers, Greg is known for his ability to bridge the gap across family business generations and motivate clients and their teams to accomplish ambitious goals to achieve exceptional business results. What an honor. We are so excited to have you on the show. Welcome to the show, Greg.
Great to be here, Michael, and thank you. Thank you for that very gracious introduction. Thank you.
Hey, it's my pleasure. I mean, you've done some amazing things. So anytime you need somebody to introduce you on stage, I'd be more than happy to do it. You know, you just let me know when to be there.
Someday we need to get together over at Jack Daniel's and talk about that.
We can do that. It might be two Jack Daniels, but that's fine. I'm totally cool with that. That would be totally fine. Now, I want to make sure that our audience, they know a little bit more about you, because I'm just fascinated by your background. I think it's amazing. You decided on Kansas State University for your undergraduate degree, and you were quite involved with the crew team, student senator, student lobbyist. So I'm wondering, what made you choose Kansas State?
You know, like a lot of high school students coming out of high school, first of all, born and bred in Kansas, small town, rural town, about 3,700 people in the middle of the state. One of the things that I wanted, I think, when I left that small town, was I wanted to see how I could make it on my own. And most of my friends were going to Fort Hays State or KU or what have you. So Kansas State was a place where I could kind of go be myself and find my own way. I think another thing that's important about that is that when you don't travel to another place with a big group of friends, you have to go make new friends. And I think that's where Sig Ep kind of came into play. I do have a disclaimer though. My mother is a KU graduate, and I think there was something there about, proving my manhood or whatever, that I had to go do something different than her. So Kansas State was the choice.
Okay, very nice. So you talked about Sig Ep fraternity at Kansas State. So what made this particular chapter stand out amongst the other organizations that are on campus?
I know it now, but I really didn't know it then. But one of the things I think that Sig Ep really offers, it definitely offered to me, and what I see in the chapters I volunteer with, is that the difference that I saw in Sig Ep and other chapters, and I'll tell you that Sigma Nu was a very close second in the recruitment choice at the time. It was 1986, so things were a lot different then. But what Sig Ep gave me was this notion of celebrating my individual self, being able to be me. And what I found later to be is that Sig Ep celebrates individual humans, their talents, their skills, their purpose, but brings us all together under this common framework of diligence, virtue, and brotherly love, our cardinal principles. So different people brought together around similar values. That's what made me go there. And at the time, other fraternities a little different now. And I'll just say it this way: we're khaki pants, blue blazers, red ties, white shirt, but not Sig Ep. Sig Ep was every color of the rainbow. Sig Ep was every political view. Sig Ep was different in every way, and it was a safe place to be you and still feel a part of an organization.
I think you and I chose our respective fraternities for the same reasons. I think there were other fraternities. I went to the University of Buffalo, and there were other fraternities that were on campus that, like you said, I mean, one was like the jock fraternity. One was, the pretty boy fraternity, or what it seemed like from the outside to me anyway. And then I looked at, the fraternity that I joined, and I'm like, this is just a group of the most different people somehow assembled. And I kind of figured out it was around values. But just like you said, I mean, every race, religion, country of origin, sexual orientation, physical disability, I mean, everything was represented there. And I think that I'm a better person because of it. Because yes, we disagreed all the time about whatever was going on, politics, I mean, you name it, we disagreed. But at the end of the day, we left the room united as a brotherhood. And to me, that's what made it so great.
Yeah, it did. And then in my professional career after that, not only did I grow as a person. Now I'll give you another. So I grew up in a family. My father's a successful small business person. My mother was a psychiatric social worker. So while I grew up in a small rural town, we were basically created to be exposed to difference. And what I found was in 1986, when I was there, that difference in that fraternity, in that safe environment where we could disagree and still love each other, was that when I got out into the real world, it's as diverse as that fraternity was, and even more so. So had the opportunity then to learn how to really maneuver my way through the corporate world and, quite frankly, life. So it changed my life. It made a significant difference in my life. And I have to pretty much, outside of my parents and in a very strong family foundation, have to give credit to Sig Ep for the success that I've had since.
That's fantastic. Now, talking about success, you worked from 1992 through 2011, which is 19 years for Anheuser-Busch in a variety of marketing and sales roles. So you have to tell us, what was that experience like? What makes this particular organization such a powerhouse in the industry for over 165 years?
Well, you tell me. I'm 20-something years old, and I'm working for the world's largest beer company in marketing roles. So think about this. Super Bowls, concerts from backstage, interacting with people in bar promotions. Really, the motto of the company was making friends is our business, and making friends is what we did for a living. So I felt it really hard to even call it work sometimes, but it was an incredible, incredible company. I will say, still is an incredible company. Today, it's much bigger, it's global, it's international, it's gigantic. When I was there, it was still the Bush family running the show. And I just got to tell you, the Bush family had very, very, very high expectations and standards of people. And they invested significantly in giving all of us the tools, the knowledge to win. And I can't tell you a better word to say than what that company was, but was to win. Mr. Bush himself was a patriarch in the company, so high demand, very tough, very strict. But again, it provided all the opportunity and all the tools to go out and do great things. So that's what the experience was like. It was like living my college years for 20 years all over again, over and over and over. And it was it was a joy. The people, I still have very close friends there. Still own all the stock I owned in that company. It's a really, really good company.
Yeah, good for you. That sounds like an incredible experience for a 20-year-old to jump into. Now, from 2011 to 2016, you worked for Brown-Forman, which of course is one of the largest American-owned spirits and wine companies. One of their brands is, of course, Jack Daniel's, which is my favorite. And interestingly enough, Jeff Arnett, who was the master distiller over the last 12 years, he happens to be a Sigma Phi from UT Martin and a fantastic, fantastic guy. They recently promoted a new master distiller. So it's really interesting how these master distillers kind of take somebody under their wing and show them the business, and then they move on. So it's really interesting about that. But I want to talk about like the branding, because the branding, if you go and take a tour at the distillery, I mean, just the branding itself is so good. It's so on point, and it's known throughout the world. So talk to us about how you were able to build such a strong brand for products such as Gentleman Jack and Jack Daniel's Single Barrel, because these products have worldwide recognition.
And I would say for Jack Daniel's and the Brown family organization, so first of all, family business, sixth generation family business, and we all know very few make three generations. So it's strong family values, strong, again, another great company to work for. From a branding perspective, very conservative, very focused, and very consumer oriented. So when I say that, well, let's talk about the Jack Daniel's brand. Now, marketing has changed, and in the current brand, people would probably argue with this, but the basic premise of Jack Daniel's marketing is still what it was in 1954, and that marketing plan was written on a page, one piece of paper. So what I would say is consistent messaging over time. That brand's a phenomenal global brand, the world's largest whiskey now. And back in the day, it was just a small little rural Tennessee whiskey. But that brand is still growing double digits around the world, and still growing in the US after 150 years. So I would say focus and a real understanding of who the consumer of the product is and where that consumer is in their life, and then meeting that need that they have with the particular brand. I'll talk about Gentleman Jack as an example. We created a program, and it's kind of a takeoff of our fraternity life, a campaign that we called the Order of Gentlemen. And it was a double meaning of the word order. It was to order the product, but it was also this organization of people that were in transition from being men to becoming gentlemen. And the funny thing is, there was no age demographic with that. When we did the research on that, we met people that were 18 doing that and people that were 40 doing that. So understanding, those signposts that people have when they're making that transition from manhood to becoming a true gentleman was the premise for that brand. And we turned that brand around and took it from flat to up 1 or 2%, up 12%, delivered, something like $60 million extra dollars in profit in the first year. It was a pretty amazing experience to do that.
Wow, what an amazing brand. It's just incredible when you think about it. And every single drop is produced in this tiny town in Tennessee, and it goes all over the world. I mean, the reach is just phenomenal. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. So if you really want to get a master class on branding, go for a tour of the distillery and see how this thing has evolved over time. It's just really incredible.
At the time when I was there, we had 3 times more people living in working at the distillery in Litchfield than lived in Litchfield. And oh, by the way, a little interesting fun fact, that county happens to be dry in Tennessee. So the biggest whiskey in the world is made in a dry county where you can't purchase the product.
This is true. This is true. They do have a store that you can buy bottles, and now recently, if you go back now they actually do have tastings in in the distillery, so you
At
can
the
do tasting
distillery.
at the
Yeah.
distillery. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
very particular about where you can consume it, so it's very cool. So now you're the founder and chief vision officer for Kaikion Coaching. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Tell us about this particular company. How do you get professionals and business owners to realize their full potential?
Yeah. So when I left corporate world after 30 years, I was going to retire and just be a volunteer.
Mhm.
That's kind of when SIGEP came back into the picture for me. Not intentionally, it just did. And I'll try to explain that because it's going to be a little woo-woo how that happened. But I started thinking about, I took this long road trip. And on that road trip that I was leaving as going to be a volunteer and somewhat angry with my, end of how my corporate experience ended, it became very apparent to me that I was not done helping people. And I'll never forget, I was halfway through that trip. I'm sitting I'm fortunate to have a home in Colorado. I was sitting in that home on the phone with my wife, who was back in Louisville. She went with me for 2 weeks, but 2 months was a little more than she was ready to do. And I'm talking about possible businesses to get in. And she goes, I don't know why you don't do this coaching thing. And I go, what do you mean this coaching thing? I'm a marketing guy. And she said, well, you may be a marketing guy, but as long as I've known you, it was at that point over 25 years. As long as I've known you, it's never been about the great ad campaigns. It's never been about the brands. It's never been about anything to do with marketing. It's been about the incredible group of young people with limited resources that were doing incredible things. So I said, so what does that mean? She goes, you've been a coach all your life. And for the next month, that just kind of percolated in my head. And I started a business coaching company, met a gentleman named Steve Thompson and Brian Tracy, 2 guys, and learned about business coaching and got certified in the focal point method. And that's how it started. Now, fast forward, I started using one of the programs that I was delivering on the business coaching side at pro bono to SIGEPs on campus that were highly functioning, highly talented people, but empty inside. So I started using a performance coaching program with them. And in their words, it had major impact on them taking a dream and turning it into reality. In a lot of cases on taking what they thought they were supposed to be doing, and that's clear here, what they thought they were supposed to be doing, influenced by parents and friends and their own minds, and started doing what they should be doing, what they were born to do, what they wanted to do. And with that came double-digit grade increases, came mental health improvement, came a number of things. And out of that, Kaikion Coaching was born. I hired a couple of them. We came in, we did a bunch of research. They interacted with their own young adult friends on campus, and the Kaikion program was written out of that. So Kaikion is designed for young people, to help young people, quite frankly, get over themselves, get past themselves, to discover their talents, to discover this thing called purpose that I had no clue what it was until I was 50, and start living a life that exasperates their talent in service to others, to deliver on the purpose, the reason they were born. And that's what Kaikion Coaching is all about. It's written by young people for young people, and it's really, really a passion project of mine. A couple of the coaches, all our coaches in that space are in their 20s. So it's a really great program to help people figure out what it is that they're really meant to do, and how to bring that to life in service to others.
I love that. I mean, Gen Z is always questioning whether or not they're on the right path. They're kind of infamous for looking over the fence and saying, is the grass greener over there? Right. And so they never really are quite sure if they're on the right path. They're always worried they're not moving fast enough, or they're not on the right path. And so I think the services that you're offering at Kaikion makes a lot of sense for Gen Z students. Obviously, I speak with them every day, every week. I also have 2 kids that are Gen Z. So I will tell you, you are absolutely on the right path. There's no question in my mind.
Well, Michael, another thing I found, so that's interesting, an interesting dichotomy here. And I'm going to talk just real quick about that mentality and the fear and limiting beliefs that come from that. And guess what I found on my business coaching side? So fast, the gap is, 18 to 30-year-olds figuring out what they want to do, 50-plus-year-old multimillionaire business people that don't believe they deserve to be doing what they're doing. So there was a common thread between high-performing young people and successful business people, this belief that they don't deserve to be where they are, this belief that, and by the way, that holds them back, this whole notion of get out of your own way. In both cases, get out of your own way and get going after the things that you're supposed to be doing. And when that happens, success falls in both places. So it's a real interesting thing, not age related, but one group transitioning into what do I want to do? And one group transitioning into what do I want to do next? And it was really an interesting space. And I'm not a psychologist. I don't play one on TV, but I do know this. I do know the statistics for mental health in the age group of 18 to 24-year-old men and 50-plus-year-old men are significant and drastic. Up 70% on the young adult side, suicide rates up 70%. 1 in 4 young people considering suicide as an alternative to their life. Same thing, the next fastest growing age group is the 50-plus male. So we have a lot of work to do in this area. And we've just working our way through one epidemic. This one makes that one look really small. So it's really important that we jump on this right away. And quite frankly, these programs are designed to do that. I have a personal goal. We set goals in these programs. I have a personal lifetime goal to end suicide in men 18 to 24 before I die. I've experienced in the fraternity and outside the fraternity attempted suicides and one completed one, and it needs to stop, and it needs to stop now.
Yeah.
And SIGEP, I believe, is a tool to do that.
I'm so glad that you're focusing in on that. I agree with you completely. Every year as exec of the fraternity, I would see the number of attempted suicides and completed suicides. That number was rising every single year with the pandemic. Again, I mean, there's no end in sight here. And we have to be talking about it, especially in men, in male organizations such as SIGEP. We have to be talking about it. To me, it's just frustrating. We should have been talking about it all along. It should have been a part of the new member experience for decades, but we never really talked about it because it wasn't something that men felt comfortable talking about. And there's various reasons for that. And we could go down that rabbit hole. But the bottom line is that we need more people talking about it, especially to young men in this age bracket that you've identified.
And fraternities offer, I mean, let's just embrace this. Fraternities offer a safe place to be who you are, even when who you are is not okay. So a safe place to openly talk about this, a safe place to gain brother support and brotherly love, a safe place to take you to see a professional when you need to go see a professional, a safe place. And I think that is probably today in the present time, one of the most huge benefits of being a member of a fraternity is that ability to try things, to experiment, to be things, to make mistakes, to fall on your face and have someone to pick you back up and love you anyway. And that's what fraternity brings to the picture. And that's what SIGEP in particular has done for me and what I see it doing with young men, across the country.
So we should talk about that. I mean, you're on the national board of directors for SIGEP. I've admired this organization for many, many years in terms of the development of the Balanced Man program in 1991 with this single tiered membership that offers an experience that's focused on scholarship, leadership, professional development, and life skills, because you're actually preparing the brothers for the journey ahead after graduation. Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about maybe some of the things that the board of directors of SIGEP is working on right now for the future, because I think you're on the cutting edge.
Well, I'm honored to have been elected by the undergraduate population to serve this 6-year term on the board. I've been back involved with the fraternity now in full outside of donations and stuff for about 6 or 7 years. So that's relatively young from a national volunteer to be elected to the board. So what is SIGEP working on right now? I'll just say it in a sentence, SIGEP 125. So we just released a brand new strategic plan. And the new model is now building balanced leaders for the world's communities. And we're doing that through environments, through people, and through leadership development. So in essence, we are creating a population that is leadership focused, that is as diverse as the world, that is healthy, that is ready to make the differences that this generation, by the way, one of the most compassionate, intelligent, loving group of population that I've ever experienced in my life, and this world needs them. So that's what we're working on. A number of committees have come back into place, and it's just really amazing. Men's mental health is on top of that list. Growth is on that list. Diversity and inclusion is on that list. Experiences and leadership development is on that list. And I got to tell you, COVID was a challenge, was a significant challenge. But the staff at headquarters in Richmond, phenomenal human beings that made the decision to not use COVID as an excuse or to blame things like struggling recruitment on COVID. Decided to pivot, hate that word, but I just used it. Decided to pivot, take leadership programs online, reestablish the organizational structure of the chapter to work on things like recruitment and development, assign more resources to the chapters, reduce dues in the areas that were flexible, non-insurance areas that were flexible to make it more affordable for people that lost family members and other resources and jobs and things like that, and pivoted, and we are stronger today than we were pre-COVID. So we just finished up and I'm so proud of this, we just finished up our Founders Day of Giving event, which by the way is a 4-year-old annual Founders Day telethon. The first year we raised $36,000. About 2 weeks ago, we raised $904,000. And what that signifies is more engaged alumni, over 1,000 of them helped out with career counseling, and that program will continue on post-COVID. But more engaged alumni, more understanding of the need, and more willingness to help, which has just been a phenomenal experience as a board member to watch. I'm humbled by it. And the undergraduate brothers so much deserve it. I mean, they are strong. They're going to make incredible leaders in this world from here on out. So we need to be there to make sure they have the tools they need to do that.
I completely agree with you. And that's why I have all the respect in the world for SIGEP. I mean, you made that decision to go online with all of your programs in a second. Yeah. I think there were, other organizations out there that really hesitated to move online as quickly as SIGEP did. And so I respect that. And I love that. And you know what? You didn't make any excuses whatsoever during the pandemic. I mean, we have to find a way to get things done. Yes, there's adversity, but you're going to be better because of it. Let's find a way forward.
Well, let me give you one other pre-COVID example that really helped during COVID. So, one of the things that our founders said, 100 and soon to be 25 years ago, was that this fraternity will be different. And the Balanced Man program was an example of that, allowing minority and people from different heritages into the fraternity in 1959, a full 5 years before the civil rights movement happened. The welcoming of LGBTQ plus membership, single tier membership, even as far back as when fraternities were all preppy Ivy League people going to teacher colleges and colleges out in the middle part of the country to recruit members. One of the things that came out of that also was this notion of 365 recruitment, getting away from the traditional formal rushing period and going to a year-round, one-on-one, meet the person you like in a class, whatever, take them out to lunch, get to know them over a period of time instead of that 10-minute sort of quickie interview at a rush event. And that really helped during COVID. So we were already in the mindset of there are great people out there that need to become SIGEPs, that SIGEP can be beneficial to them and they can be beneficial to SIGEP. So that process was in place that we just really ramped up during that time. So recruitment was great. and leadership was great. So again, I give all this credit to the staff in Richmond and to Brian Warren, the CEO. If you haven't had him on this show, you should. He's an amazing human being.
We're going to talk about that because I want him on the show. I think I have a special spot for Brian. So, yeah, we definitely have to get him on the show. I agree with you completely there. Now, go ahead.
The foundational of this fraternity, to me, sure, virtue, do the right thing, diligence, be your best at all times. But the big one is brotherly love, and that is alive and well throughout the board. It's alive and well throughout all of the committees. It's alive and well throughout the staff, and quite frankly, the 13 to 15,000, whatever our magic number is now, undergraduates across the country. Brotherly love and that notion of celebrating each person as an individual and using their talents to grow the fraternity is what makes this work.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to go back to mental health for a second because you released your international bestseller book. It's called The Road to Purpose, The Roadmap for Overcoming Life's Major Transitions. And in the letter to the reader at the beginning of this book, you talked about your mental health struggles and trying to cover them up by essentially just staying busy. And after 30 years of successful work, you find yourself out of a job with nothing to show for it except this feeling of worthlessness, this feeling of fear, rejection, and depression. So how did you overcome all of that?
Well, a high achiever, like so many of the undergraduate brothers that we work with, very high achiever. And what I discovered is if I stayed busy, so one of my addictions is work. Mm-hmm. If I stayed busy, then I didn't have to admit to myself that I was empty inside. Mm-hmm. So I stayed busy. My work environments provided plenty of stay busy work, 30 years successful in every aspect of the way. I mean, my God, I'm a consumer marketing guy and I got to work on Jack Daniels and Budweiser and Bud Light and Shock Top and brands like that for a living, right? So got all the way to the top of the proverbial ladder for consumer marketing that anyone could hope for, and realized it was leaning against the wrong building. And that happened when my company sold off a group of brands that I was running. We had opportunities, of course, to stay on and take other jobs. I took early retirement. I was disillusioned. I was angry. I was all of a sudden not busy. SIG-EP had started to come back into my life. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, how am I going to meet these commitments? I'm now out of a job. So I took that road trip that book is about. And went through the entire, it went into the entire cycles of grief, starting out with anger and frustration, depression, went through that whole period. Well, one of the things I realized throughout my entire life, I'd been dealing with depression. And for me, the symptoms of depression were always aggressiveness and anger. So, and I think in a lot of men that it's as much that as it is the curling up in a ball and sleeping for, 2 weeks. I did plenty of that too, but it was aggression and anger, and I was feeling it full force. So this is when I probably really, really realized it. And then eventually the depression subsided, and now I was just empty, completely empty. And I had a choice to make. And this is part of I talked about the fluff, or the pink fluffy clouds. The universe, in my mind, spoke to me and said, you got a choice. You can quit and give up, or you can decide to do something about it. And that decision, making a decision to do something about it, to not accept what was, and to decide to just be, to be me, to be, led to the coaching work I was doing, following a purpose, defining what it was. And when I discovered purpose, some people talk about, Simon Sinek's book, Starting with Why, same thing. When I discovered my purpose and started being that, and then started doing things to bring that to life, things started falling into place. It's as if the universe said to me, okay, Greg, you've got free will. Go do whatever you want. Fight the system, battle it. It's going to be tough. You ready for it? But you can do it, whatever you want. And then when I started living the life I was meant to live, and I didn't know that at the time, when I started living the life I was meant to live and doing it in service to other people, depression started going away. The other thing, really important stuff here, things that anyone can do. I started exercising. I started getting at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. That's a tough one for me. I started trying to eat right because I did, like so many people, filled in that emptiness with alcohol, with eating a lot, with working too much, with moving away, becoming a person that was so focused on doing the things I thought I should be doing in order to have the things that I thought I should have, which, by the way, I got those things, but then I became those things.
Right.
So the new model I think that I use, it's really helped me manage my depression. And oh, by the way, saw a therapist, had very supportive friends. My Sigma brothers were there. My family was there. Saw a doctor, on medication for a while. I'm now working my way off of that. Through these cognitive behavioral techniques, really deciding to think a different way, to explain away negative things in a different way as happening for me, not to me. I just lost my wife a year ago in December. And that you go through the whole road to purpose and you think, okay, I made it through this, the world's okay. Here's another challenge coming your way. You know, I could have decided to quit then. I could have decided to say, you know, F this, I'm just gonna go out to the mountains and hike all day long. And something came into my head that I needed to start being more present. And that's where I am now. So the advice I give young people is be first, be you, be authentic, be a human. We are after all human beings. And then bring that to life with doing. And then you will naturally have the things that you're looking for. But if you do things because you think you should, in order to have all the stuff, the big houses, fast cars, all of that stuff, you're going to become big houses, fast cars, and all that stuff. And when they go away, you're now empty. But if you start with being you and bringing that to life through doing, you will have all those things, but it will be because of who you are. And that is the true elixir that is kaikion. Kaikion, by the way, is a drink that was consumed in ancient Greece, and so it is an elixir. Ancient Greece at Elysius, the Elysian mysteries, if you remember. So that's where that kind of all came from. But the elixir is be yourself.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, thank you for sharing all of this and being so transparent. I mean, I know you've been through a lot with the loss of your wife and you know, various things that have been going on in your life over time. But I think the fact that you talk about it, I think really empowers other people that also go through various forms of grief, to show them what it looks like when you go through that and end up on the other side of it, and that, you know, hope and healing is possible. So I think you give people a lot of hope when you share that message. Well,
I'll tell you, and I'll just be straight up here. In the Trago's quest to Greece was another thing. Davis Orr, I don't know if you met Davis or not, but Davis Orr invited me to be a mentor on the Trago's quest to Greece. Again, the universe unfolding, I guess, as intended 2 years in. And again, the mentors tend to be 10, 12, 15-year active people. Yeah. So I don't know how that happened, but like I said, I have a firm belief that when things are random and spontaneous in a particular order, they're neither random or spontaneous. I can't prove that, but that's the story of me coming back into SIGEP. There is no science or logic behind it. Yeah. But I will say this, on the Trago's Quest to Greece, I released, you know, part of that program. It's a really interflective part, beyond the, you know, being in cool places and learning philosophy and all of that. But there's an interflective part that happens at night as a group. That was the first time that I unleashed a burden I'd been carrying for 15 years. And that was a within 5 minutes, planned, orchestrated suicide that was in 5 minutes of happening. And getting rid of that at 24, by the way, that was at 24. That was the first time I knew I needed to get some help. And it was because what I thought I was supposed to be doing wasn't what I wanted to be doing. And I failed at it. It was my first job out of school. I failed at it and had to go back home and work in my family business, which is a great place to work, but not for a person trying to prove their independence. So, and the Trago's Quest to Greece, as a mentor, gave me the opportunity, like everyone else, to really talk about the things that were holding them back. And that was a turning point.
Mm-hmm.
And SIGEP made that available to me as an alumni. So this truly is a lifetime commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is not only a commitment to give, but a commitment to get and to accept help and to accept being part of something bigger than yourself.
Mm-hmm. You talk about SIGEP being a lifetime commitment, and I agree with you. Our brotherhood certainly is, but we also know brothers that really viewed the fraternity as a 4-year experience, that they don't have an experience beyond the undergrad time with the fraternity. And you also talk about not being active with the fraternity for many years, and then SIGEP was a major influence in bringing you back, and I know Archie kind of played a role in that. I mean, tell us what happened there.
Well, a funny thing, I was headed down to into Nashville to our conclave that was that year. I can't remember which year exactly that was, 17 or 15, one of those years. And after being, just the notion came in to be involved, and I headed that way. I got halfway there, turned around, came back, because the voices in my head were saying, it's been 30 years, you're out of date, you're going to embarrass yourself, what are you doing? You know, this is crazy. So I came back and just said, okay, I gave it a shot. It's done. And then I saw a video on Facebook, a tribute to Phil Cox, who I never knew. I don't know if you know Phil Cox or not, but he was a Grand Chapter president that died of throat cancer. And I saw this tribute, and it's like, it still chokes me up. I never knew the man, never knew him. So the tears started rolling down my face, and I said, okay, I'm going at it again. So I called the then district governor and said, I want to sign up to be a volunteer. And he said to me, love it, I'll get you on a list. We have no needs for volunteers right now. So that turned into 3 weeks later, I get a call, hey, funniest thing that's ever happened. The fraternity in Louisville is looking for a chapter counselor. They've never had one. Are you interested in that role? And it was like, okay, that's a little weird, but sure, yes, I am. I was going through the orientation and so forth. And one of the things in my company at the time, Brown Foreman, was we did this thing called holiday surveys. And so those kind of things were happening. Holiday survey, I get assigned to Richmond, Virginia. I'd never been there before, never been to the fraternity, none of that. And I said, well, I'm going to Richmond. Let me pick up the phone. And Archie Messersmith at the time was head of alumni relations. And he and the head of fraternity services, we sat down, and I'll never forget Archie saying this to me. He said, and so we're going through the whole thing, why I want to be a volunteer and all that stuff. And he says to me at the very end, there's one thing I want to tell you. If things go wrong with your chapter, it's not your fault. I don't want you to feel like, and I'm like, ooh, that's a little strange kind of thing. Well, things didn't go wrong with the chapter. I mean, they're flying extremely high. They're a phenomenal group of young men. And 7 years later, here I am. Yeah. So it's been, like I said, great. I think it's grace, a gift from the universe, and I continue to get to live it every single day. I tell young people that believe, and I did, you know, I was career, and then learned after 30 years of career, yeah, you were really great at career and pretty decent at, you know, investing your money in wealth, but relationships sucked, your health sucked. I was out of balance in SIGEP terms. I was not a balanced man. Mm-hmm. And this has brought balance back. Wow. And guess what? Guess what's happened as a result of balance? All the other stuff has taken off. Right. So amazing grace, I think, is what I would call that relationship.
Wow, this is incredible. I mean, what a testimonial for fraternity in general. I mean, what an amazing story, Greg. Totally incredible. Now, I heard you know of a few good restaurants in Louisville, Kentucky, and I happen to live in Nashville, so I'm very close to you and I can get there very quickly. So what? I
love that. Come on, let's get together.
Hey, I mean, I'm totally down for that. What are your favorite restaurants to go to get some great food in Louisville?
Well, so we have the Sullivan Culinary Institute here. And Louisville's not quite at Nashville level as far as the, it's a very cool place to live, but it's still growing. we're trying to catch up with our big brothers, Indianapolis and Nashville. But what Louisville does have is a great restaurant scene, very good food. It's what we do since we don't have pro sports, we go out to eat. I don't know if that's why Kentucky's the second fattest state in the country, but anyway, we have really great restaurants. I have a few go-tos. I'm a kind of a curious experimental guy, so I go to a lot of restaurants, but I have some go-tos that when people come to town, these will be on the tour list. One is Jack Fry's. I don't know if you've been to Jack Fry's or not. It's been around for a long time. It's small, it's loud. They have the best steaks and pork and seafood. It's a really awesome dining experience, and it's unique. But probably my favorite is the Bambi Bar. If you want the best burger, I think, in the world, Bambi Bar, this little hole in the wall, small, holds maybe 20 people. They just fixed the place up, which means they put the ceiling back up that had fallen in. Best burgers ever. And then there's a new restaurant. So my offices, we're coming to you from those offices, are down in the Nulu area. Nulu stands for New Louisville. A lot of cool, unique restaurants and shops and things down here. Is La Bogadita, which is a Cuban restaurant. It's one of the most phenomenal Cuban restaurants I've ever been into. There's usually a 2-month wait to get into the place, but really, really good. But you can't go wrong with Louisville restaurants. I have not had a bad experience ever. And I've got 35 extra pounds on me to show for it.
You and me both, brother. You and me both. So that sounds absolutely phenomenal. We're going to have to schedule a time for me to come in December and have some good food there.
Love that. Yeah.
We get past Thanksgiving and some of my, end of the semester programs that I have to get through. But December sounds like a good time. We're going to absolutely make that happen. All right. So if any of our listeners out there are looking for coaching, speaking services, I know you do assessments, you do training and development. Where is the best place for them to go and learn more about you and Kaikion Coaching?
I think the best place to go really to get all that is kaikioncoaching.com. That's probably the best place. You'll see there's areas there to connect with me, to set up a phone call or what have you. Also, Ryan and some of the young coaches are out there too. So happy to talk to anybody that would like to talk about, what we're doing, or just to talk. I love having virtual coffees. I love having real ones too. I even really like getting back out and having real ones. But anyway, that's probably the best place to reach me. My contact information is all there.
That sounds great. So Kaikion is spelled Kykeon, coaching.com. Go and check that out. What can I tell you, Greg? I've really, really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit here. I can't wait to meet you up in person in Louisville. We will absolutely make that happen in December, and all the best. I know that we're going to be crossing paths very, very soon. I'm confident of that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Nashville too. So maybe
anytime.
We'll just have to make a road trip.
Yeah, just come and take a road trip. I mean, if you want a place to stay, you got, more than enough space at my place.
Same here. Same here.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And to our listeners, thank you so much for listening. If you like this conversation with Greg, make sure that you like it and share it with other students on campus. And as well, make sure you share it with the Sig Ep community, because they want to hear this as well. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast, and we hope to see you on another episode of Fraternity Foodie. Thanks so much. See you next time.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael.